Hello and welcome to the Swim Brief. The Swim Brief is brought to you by my employer, Jersey Wahoo Swim Club, a USA Swimming silver medal club in Mount Laurel, New Jersey. You can read up more about how Jersey Wahoo's brought this podcast back on my blog, christcoach.com. That's CHRIST as in DeSantis Coach.com. Jersey Wahoo's provides all levels of swimming instruction, from learn to swim to national level competition training since 1972. Wahoo's has been one of the best clubs in the Middle Atlantic LSC, and we're proud of a tradition that values trust, honesty, and respect. Welcome to this solo cast. I have a few topics that I want to get through with everybody today, and we're going to touch on some of the swimming that's happened recently. I want to talk about specifically Michael Andrew, and we're going to talk more about Michael Andrew and how he swims on Thursday with Eric and Joel. I think that's going to be a little bit more appropriate for like a group discussion. We're going to touch on some stuff that's going on around trials and some thoughts that have finally formulated for me about this wave 1, wave 2 nonsense. And then I want to actually talk about this summer, because I really think actually that this summer is kind of a make or break summer for swimming, especially swimming in America, because there's a lot of factors at play, some of them, right, that are typical, and some of them that are atypical. You can probably guess what those are, but they have a lot to do with what's going to happen in the near-term future with the sport of swimming. So let's go back to the top, and let's talk about a little bit of Michael Andrew. He was on an absolute tear this weekend, so much so that I joked, I would say I'm a casual watcher of these Pro Series meets. I don't find them particularly entertaining as a swimming product. I think they've been designed in a traditional way around, traditional quote-unquote fast swim meet, and that doesn't make them a particularly compelling product to watch. So when Michael Andrew ripped a 58-second 100 breaststroke in Indy, in the prelims, all of a sudden, I was watching that live stream of finals. And I watched a few extra races that I normally wouldn't have watched. I watched Linnea Mack just absolutely crush Kate Douglas off the turn of a 100 freestyle. Really interesting to see her come through. Still a lot of room for improvement in the women's 100 free, women's sprinting in general in the U.S. It just hasn't been quite the depth that you would expect for the greatest swimming country in the world to have in something like that. I know, but we've seen this over time. I was just talking to somebody over the phone. You just have this various... I guess we expect that, we're just going to have the best people in all these races, and it never quite works out like that for the U.S. We have these periods in time where you kind of have a low point, and our low points are pretty good, right? But men's distance in the 90s was definitely a low point for American swimming. You had at a time when the American record was under 15 minutes, you had guys winning, U.S. national meets in 15:15, 15:20, guys not even finaling in the Olympics and that. So I wouldn't say this is that much of a down phase. You could easily see one of these U.S. athletes break through, but it doesn't. It would be a surprise. For instance, if an American woman, I think, won gold in Tokyo, if Tokyo even happens, which we won't get into on this podcast because, I don't know. I have a brother-in-law that lives in Japan. He seems quite skeptical about them actually pulling off an Olympics, but we'll see. I just don't spend a lot of brain power thinking about it, because what good does it do me here in Mount Laurel, New Jersey, going, is there going to be Olympics? Is there not going to be Olympics? I'm still leaning on the side that I do think that there is going to be one. But anyway, so we'll just surmise about that stuff for now. I got a little sidetracked. Back to Michael Andrew. Okay, so he improves his breaststroke at the night. The best thing about Michael Andrew is he's so good that that people, I don't know what this is, but the reflexive sort of reaction to a lot of him doing well is to make like the most unfair comparisons you can do. So, like, for instance, he goes this 58 mid 100 breaststroke in finals, great swim. And I know somebody who goes, well, he's still going to get his butt whooped by Petey. Okay, so you're telling me, like, the most dominant breaststroker of all time, he's not as good as that guy. How's Adam Petey's 100 fly? Can he go 50 point in the 100 fly? Oh, no, can't do that? Okay, well, Michael Andrew can. Well, he's not as fast as Caleb Dressel. Okay. For him to swim as fast as he does in many of these races, and I'm sure at some point, let's say if he continues to develop and he gets to be like sort of a multiple medal threat at the international level, there's going to be people who are like, well, you didn't win eight gold medals like Phelps. Okay, I mean, look, he's done very well. He's very versatile. My biggest concern for him is, like, after the 100 breaststroke, of course, my mind immediately went to, okay, he should just at trials just swim the 100 breaststroke, 100 butterfly, leave everything. Sorry, 100 breaststroke, 200 IM. Don't mess around with the 100 butterfly. Okay, but he swam too fast in the 100 butterfly. So, the points where we've seen him struggle the most is when he has so many events that he can be competitive in, that he tends to, attack all of them. He tries to swim fast every single time he gets in the water, and he sort of like wears himself down over the course of a long meet. And I would hate to see that happen to him. That said, can we all, and we'll address this more specifically on the technique end of things with Michael Andrew. Just saw some stuff floating out there in the interwebs that I want to address. Can we all just take a break on telling Michael Andrew what to do? Okay, because since he's been, a 12-year-old age group phenom, it just seems to be like I talked on a previous podcast with somebody that used to coach, Sina Bro, who, by the way, swam awesome at European Championships, won another 53 in the 100 freestyle. She's doing great. She looks really, really ready for the Olympics. But she just described this phenomenon where, in a small country, people just come up to her and just like tell her what they think she should be doing with all her swimming. And I see this with Michael Andrew. It's just like everybody feels entitled to somehow, a lot of the Michael Andrew stuff doesn't fit people's like mental model of what a swimmer should be doing. So they just go like, well, he should do it. So I'm very conscious of that, where I say, hey, he should just swim this program. You know what? Let's let Michael Andrew be Michael Andrew. He's doing a pretty good job at it. He's reached a very, 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 very high level of swimming. I'm excited to see what he's going to do in Omaha next month, because I do believe he'll do better than he did in this pro meet, and better in at least those 200-yard races. Better is medal contention. Like it's right there, and so that's pretty exciting. And it's going to also be pretty unprecedented. Like, when was the last time we had somebody medal in the Olympics in butterfly and breaststroke? Right? It's not been a frequent crossover. And so use this as a transition to talk about trials a little bit. I've just been thinking a lot about the fact that they've split these two meets up. And I get totally get why they did it. Okay, and I'll get into that here just for people listening. What you have to understand is that USA Swimming, their single biggest revenue item over a 4-year Olympic cycle has become Olympic trials. Okay, they cannot function financially without a big chunk of revenue from Olympic trials. How do they get that revenue? Well, they've taken the meet that used to be an actual Olympic trials meet. It used to be like people that showed up were basically people that were in contention for an Olympic team. Maybe a handful of other people were there. But, if we were to guess at the realistic size of an Olympic trials meet, it probably would be this Wave 2. Like, that would be a legitimate size, and even then you could make the argument that there's too many people there. But, they blew it up, and what that's enabled them to do, and what's being challenged this time because of COVID, is it enabled them to fill up the arena, which, by the way, taken on its own, is a great thing. I love that our athletes get to compete in a loud, packed 14,000 seat arena, which they won't be able to do this time, right? Because just you can't. You can't. So I love that part about it, but that's a big revenue part. They get a cut of people staying at Marriott hotels, right? They get a cut of all sorts of sponsorship stuff around. And I was talking to somebody last night, and he just said, like, picture just a gigantic vacuum, just like sucking the money out of families of kids that are very, very fast. I mean, a majority of the kids, nobody's qualifying for Olympic trials that's not very good at swimming, and I'm not taking anything away from them, but people that have no hope of making the Olympic team. And basically this Olympic trials meet is a very, very efficient way to separate large sums of money from them. And so USA Swimming, in light of COVID, had to find a way to preserve this. And so I think the best that they could come up with was this Wave 2, but what it has done is it's made it even more distinct that there's really, in a typical Olympic trials now, that there are 2 meets going on. There is basically a opportunity, an experience meet, that is like show up and race in the Olympic trials pool and see Michael Andrew in the warm-up pool and, get that awesome experience. And then there's people that are really trying to make the Olympic team. Okay. So it's separated those 2 out. And I just think people have to be clear-eyed about it, because in the light of everything else I've written about, everything else we're discussing here, what it does create is a system where, that money, how it's distributed, what it's distributed on, okay, it a lot of it goes to paying some very, very overpaid officials at USA Swimming to contribute stuff that doesn't really make a difference to membership of USA Swimming. So, the sort of most ridiculous end to this is the cardboard cutouts that you can now buy to put into the stands. I mean, I literally think, what's his name? Scott Usher, I think, had his name put to this. Scott Usher is, I just picture him in a room with a bunch of guys going like, guys, how can we drum up some revenue for trials this summer? Like, we've got a big black hole in our budget. Like, how do we do it? Okay, I know at the pro sports stuff, they had cardboard cutouts in the stands to simulate. Like, what if we charge people $500 to have a cardboard cutout of themselves watching at the meet? again, I don't blame them, honestly. If somebody really wants a $500 cardboard cutout to watch their kid swim because they can't get to the meet, and that's meaningful to the people on the other end, great. But to me, it just seems like a completely shameless money grab. Just completely shameless. And which leads me to my last point, which is a not completely shameless money grab. And that is this summer is going to be massive. Now that from all indications in the U.S., it seems, I feel confident saying that it seems like by the fall, we will be basically business as usual in most swimming clubs in America. That is full capacity, and very few restrictions around it. And what I've observed over this time of COVID is basically we've shed a lot of people from the sport of swimming. And I really want to know, will they come back? Will they come back when the restrictions are gone and capacities go up and all that stuff? It's a really, really good question because, I think that there's a lot of people that sort of just get involved in something and it's easier for them to keep it rolling, okay? But they've had it interrupted and now they have to make a conscious decision to come back. Or we're not necessarily talking about the same people who left, who've sort of been missing at the outset of this coming back, but also new people coming into the sport. And typically Olympic years are massive for attracting new people to the sport, right? We always get this Olympic bump. People watch Michael Andrew win a medal in the 100 fly and the 100 breast, and then they go, parents go, oh man, swimming, what a great sport, put my kid in swimming. Or, maybe some kid watches the Olympics and go, oh, I want to swim like that. And so you get this nice bump of membership. And I think that bump, that group of people returning who've maybe been away, or people that, a lot of the summer leagues this summer are finally going to be sort of fully operational, right? And summer league literally is the lifeblood of our sport. That we're talking about, when you talk about USA Swimming, it's a few 100,000 athletes, okay? When you talk about summer league, we're talking about a few million athletes. So it's like an order of magnitude 10 times the number of athletes. And most, I was not one of these people. I actually started in USA Swimming Club swimming. But most athletes that come into the sport get their start at the summer league. So it's it is literally the lifeblood. And so I think it's going to be really interesting to see what kind of numbers clubs are able to return to in the fall, right? And it's something I'm going to be watching closely because it has ramifications for all sorts of things. You think USA Swimming, they need revenue from trials to be able to keep operational. Swim clubs, they probably can make some adjustments, leaner operation, this, that, and there, but a lot of them have been able to function financially by having large membership numbers. That has enabled a lot of the things that they're doing. So to be able to continue that, I think, ends up being really important for them. So that's all I've got for this solo cast, just a short one, 20 minutes this week. Check back on Thursday. I have Eric and Joel on. As promised, we're going to talk about Michael Andrews butterfly specifically, and some quirks in it, and I'll tell you what we think. I've talked to Uncle Milt about it, so I've got some wiser opinions than mine to share. I will see you guys then. Remember to rate this podcast on iTunes, share it with a friend, I've de-emphasized the social media sharing of this. So give me a hand if you think somebody would like this, if you think that somebody would benefit from listening to some of this. Write me with questions, concerns, compliments. I always like a good compliment. And I'll talk to you later this week.